Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heal and Restore podcast. Hi, babe.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm good. You're kind of excited about tonight, aren't
I
you?
am very excited.
Yeah, we got a really special podcast tonight. Um,
I did it all by myself.
she's going to do it all, but yeah, she put this whole thing together by herself. And you know how Kathy and I are really big about it. Whoa! Sorry about that.
That was a
Dropped the
microphone.
Really good about.
Was that mic drop?
Actually, I'm sitting in Kathy's seat, so it's a much smaller not microphone, but Kathy and I talk about community all the time, and Kathy herself she's always had around her a great community
Yeah.
of women. So I'm actually going to just kind of shine, bail out of this one tonight. I'm going to let Kathy have it herself with her and her four girls, the circles that she has put together right now, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it because community is important. I think in this. I don't know everything that's gonna happen, but I can guarantee you this: you're gonna see how important community is,
Yeah.
not only to my wife, but to the four women that she's has on here. So, ladies, have fun. Remember, it's all about having fun. Just relax and let it flow. All right, we love you.
Hi, honey.
Bye.
So yes,
Come on, man.
I am doing this episode for the very first time by myself, and we're going to call this The Circle and Why Community Matters. And each of my guests, and I'll introduce them here in a minute, have played a pivotal role in who I am today. I think we've done that for each other. But, you often hear Randy and I talking about community and why community is important. And, you're going to hear why community is important to these women, including myself. But I looked up a couple things here just to kind of kick this off is, what is community? And so as I was doing my research on this, community is a group of people who share something in common. And I can honestly say that the four of us have something in common. You can define a community by the shared attributes of the people in it or by the strength of the connections among them. And I do believe we have a very strong connection between the four of us. You need a bunch of people who are alike in some way, who feel a sense of belonging or an interpersonal connection. And I know that's something that is really important to me, is to have that interpersonal connection with people. Then I wanted to know, what does God say? Why we need to have community? Why does God want us to belong to a community? And what I found is that being in community gives you a chance to be around people at different stages of their faith journey. And I believe that we're all on our own journey, and we're all at different stages, but we allow ourselves, because we're open, to accept each other's faith journey, and we feed off of that and we grow from that as well. And it's awesome because everyone has something to teach and to learn. And that's what makes this group of women special to me. So I want to introduce my guest. I have journeyed personally, we've all journeyed together with these beautiful women. So I want to introduce Tracy, Lauren, and Alicia, and a little bit about how our circle started. If I remember right, Lauren is the one that started this, maybe a year ago or longer. And so what I did is, I thought to myself, what can I do? What kind of a podcast can I have with my girls? And I came up with this circle. So each of the girls, I asked them a question on what the circle means to them. And there were several common words that came from that question. So welcome, ladies. If you guys want to I'll call out your name, tell us who you are, where you live, because this is the interesting part about this particular community, and just a little bit about yourself. So Alicia, I'm going to start with you.
Or I put myself on mute. I'm Alicia, a grateful believer in Christ. I am in Alabama, and we're on tornado watch. Woohoo!
That's that time of year. So Alicia's married. She has 5 amazing kids, from teens down to 4-year-olds. That's crazy to think they're 4 already. So welcome. Thank you for coming. Tracy.
Hi, Tracy, and I'm in Southern California, hopefully getting ready to move. Our house is on the market. It's been on for almost 2 weeks, and my plan is to leave to go to Texas.
Awesome. And Lauren.
I am Lauren. I'm from Texas, San Antonio, Texas. Well, I'm originally from California, but we moved to Texas 2 years ago. And I'm married and I have 5 boys from teenagers to 18 months.
All them babies. So as you may have figured out, all 4 of us are originally from California. I am in Arizona. Those that listen know that we now live in Arizona, but we all met at church and we all met through life groups and through our own journeys that got us to our circle today. So what I did is I asked the girls all these questions, or not all these questions. I asked the question, why is the circle important to you? And as I went through each of their written out whys, there were so many common words that came up. And I think that's a true testament of what community can do, is that we all have that common space that we desire. And so I'm going to start with Tracy. Tracy, one of the words that came out for on yours, and it hit on all of us, is the word connection. Tell me why is a circle, a community circle like this, what is connection to you?
Oh, belonging, accepting, for as long as I can remember, and I'm 51 now, so basically my entire life, I wanted to feel like I found where I fit in, where I'm supposed to be. My group of people. I always went and searched for it myself. And with the 3 of you, God brought every one of you into my life. I did not seek any of you out. And so it's a godly connection because we're all going through something similar. Either we've gone through it and we're walking somebody else through it, or we're about to go through something. It's just, we're always lifting each other up. And it's iron sharpens iron. We're there for each other. We can be real and we can be raw, and we hold each other accountable, but we pray for each other and we lift each other up. And it's all a positive experience. And that's what connection to me is.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'll just add, if any of you girls want to add to that, just lift your hand. I'll kind of monitor and watch that too, so that we all can, pipe in on some of those areas. Lauren, I know that one thing that you and I talk about a lot, and I'm sure you talk with the other girls, because we all either are in a group chat together or sometimes it's one-on-one. You always talk about a safe place. And why is a safe place important to you in community?
A safe place for me is important because I need to be able to share in my community the rawness and vulnerability of exactly how I feel. And just to keep me not stuck in my feelings, but having an outside godly perspective and holding me accountable.
Yeah, that's really good. And Alicia, I know you're a school teacher and you have your hands full with children outside of the home and inside of the home. But one of the things that another common word that kept coming up is the word respect. So when you're looking for community, how does respect fall into order when you're in community like that? What are you looking for with somebody with the word respect?
I guess I would say just that they respect my boundaries that I have set, knowing that we all have families, we have things that are going on constantly, that you can't always, we're not always present with each other. We're always present, but we all have our own lives going on. And just respecting our trust, like that safety. What I tell this group isn't going anywhere. It's not like Kathy's running back to Randy. And I mean, I don't care if she does anyways, but if she, is telling him what's going on with this and this and this, or it's a safe, like you said, it's a safe place. It's a respect for each other's trustworthiness and just their secrets.
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing that comes to mind with the word respect is that I think we all understand that we're all on our own journey. We're not, everybody's, like you say, everybody's got life. We're busy. We're people that are involved in ministry. We do coaching. I mean, there's just a lot that takes place, and we have to be able to respect each other where they're at. And, we may not always be on the same level at any given time. In fact, I'm glad that we're not, because this allows us to, to continue to stretch ourselves and to grow ourselves. And I mean, sometimes Alicia pulls and other times Lauren's pulling and then Tracy pulls up, it's we all have that. and we respect that in each other. And I think that's really important. It's not, I mean, there was a period in my time, in my life, where I felt like in order to fit in, I had to one up. So I always had to have something more to say or something better to say. And I don't feel that way in a healthy community like this. So I think that is really important to be able to, have that connection, have that safe place, and have that respect for each other and where we are in our walk. Um, Tracy, I know one of the things that I love about you is sharing celebrations.
Mhm.
So you've always been one of those that just celebrates the little things and the big things and everything in between. So why is sharing celebrations in your circle, and sometimes outside your circle, but in your circle, why is that so important to you?
Well, struggling with my weight also throughout the years. One of my fitness coaches actually said we need to look at the small and not just the big things because we don't appreciate all of the little things that happen in our life.
Mm.
And being originally from New York, being out here now in California 17 years, even getting ready to move to another state, you want the big stuff. Coming to Christ, I was born and raised a non-practicing Jew. I've been Christian for 14 years. You have to see things through a different perspective. You have to see God doesn't just throw the big stuff at us. He throws tiny little things. That mustard seed faith is really small. If you don't know how to appreciate the small, you're going to overlook and miss all of the beauty of what God's doing in our lives and changing us and growing us. I mean, my last church that I was at, we grew leaps and bounds. My church I'm currently now at, it's fine tuning. It's the small adjustments. It's the small growths. And I love celebrating. I had a boss once tell me I was a cheerleader type that I have to rah-rah everybody. But coming from a place where I never got that affirmation, I want to do that for other people. I want them to see that I appreciate them in my life and what they're doing in their life. I like to bear witness to what they're doing, what God's doing in them. And we feel better about ourselves when somebody is there in our corner cheering us on and helping us, even when we're, pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, crying completely broken. You want somebody that's there that's going to be like, it's okay. It's going to get better.
Yeah.
And we have to celebrate all of that.
I think one thing that stands out, maybe you other girls, if you have something to say, is that, one thing I learned through my recovery journey is that, they talk about if you take a chip or you take a coin, you're not taking that for yourself. You're taking that for others to see. And I think that's really important, is to make sure we are celebrating those smalls and those bigs, because people are watching. And, we were watching somebody once too. I can honestly feel that way. And, it's seeing that celebration is seeing how God changes our lives and how God works in and through us. And if we don't celebrate the small things, we may just be missing out reaching another person. And that's our whole goal in life as Christians, is to make sure that we are, walking out what God has put us on earth here for, our purpose. And sometimes our purpose is just being an example to others so that they see Jesus through us. So do
Mhm.
you other girls, anybody else, Lauren or Alicia, do you have any comments on sharing celebrations?
I think
Nice.
sharing, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I think sharing celebrations too, it builds us up and it postures our hearts correctly for others, and just sharing their wins. It's a beautiful thing. Just like Tracy said, some people, they've never had it. They want that affirmation and they're searching for it. So for someone like us to just be able to hand it over and give it to them, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Alicia?
Mhm. Yeah, I just agree, just noticing the little things, because sometimes, we don't see that in ourselves. We can't see those little things, but when we have a circle who you go with, they see those little things first before you usually see it. So when it's like pointing that out, like Chris and I, we help run the Celebrate Recovery here. And so I walk with ladies there, and it's so nice to be able to point out their wins when they don't see them. And it makes me excited too, because part of their win is part of my win, because I let them, instead of telling them, hey, you should do this and this and this, she was able to come up with her own idea on how she needs to help herself. And that was huge for me, because I'm a good fixer. So when I stepped back, it was a win for her and she got to feel big in that moment. And it was a win for me. And so when we point out those wins for others, sometimes those wins are ours as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I do that too. If I feel like if I'm talking to somebody and something comes out of my mouth and I'm like, where did that come from? A lot of times I'm speaking to myself and that's a win, when we're sharing that information with somebody else. So, yeah, sharing celebrations, not only for others, but for ourselves too. And that's hard for us as women. At least for me, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes, like you said, we don't see it in ourselves, before others see it in us. But it's really important that we are aware and we are in tune to our own growth too. So it's not easy, but it's something we have to be intentional about looking at. The other big word, and you girls, you all know this is a big word for me as well, is the word vulnerability. Lauren and I'm sure she talks with all of you, but vulnerability. Why is vulnerability in a safe circle so important? And I know you've had some challenges, as we all have, when we move to new areas of, finding those safe people and creating a space for vulnerability. But share about vulnerability, Lauren. What does that do for you?
I love vulnerability
I know you do.
conversations. It makes me feel special and honored and just it's like that someone else just entrusts me with their hearts and their secrets.
Mhm.
I could say for vulnerability, especially in this circle, it's really taught me a lot about myself and growing because I didn't know how to communicate. You, Kathy, you taught me that I used to just push things under the rug. And I remember like the first few times that I've heard you girls speak when we were at CR about how vulnerable, your situations, your feelings. I was like, whoa, this is like kind of awkward because you're not used to hearing it, in like an everyday conversation. But as our relationship has just grown and like the more vulnerability we have, the more grace, the more love, and just more understanding for each other. It's a beautiful thing to have a friendship where there's no judgment and we could just be raw with our feelings and just share.
Yeah,
So thank you, girls.
I love that. Tracy, how about vulnerability to you? What does that do for you?
Oh, well, growing up, I wasn't allowed to, express my feelings and emotions because I was always told, "Oh, stop being so sensitive."
Good.
And we have to, when I was learning to pray out loud, I started praying and then I got so very nauseous, very sick to my stomach. And I had asked, Rabbi Brian about what the heck happened. And he said, I ran headfirst into a wall because I was grown up being told you don't do that. And so when I went and I started to reveal things out loud and there were people around me, I became self-conscious and silenced it and swallowed it all down and it made me physically ill. And that night when I was home praying, God said to me that it's okay to be vulnerable to him as
Beautiful.
God, because he's going to be the only one not hurt, sharing these deep down feelings and hurts and emotions to hurt me back.
Yeah.
And I need to learn how to trust. And the first place was with God. And I did. And I broke down sobbing. And I was on the floor weeping and just crying all of this out to him and being really, truly vulnerable for the first time. And knowing that you do need that safe environment to share it in where that you are real and raw to somebody, they're not going to find a way to hurt you because that was always my experience. Anybody I shared my deepest feelings to, it came back and slammed me in the face so bad that I had no self-esteem left.
Yeah. That's
It destroyed me just because I was trying to trust somebody.
Yeah. Thank you for being vulnerable in that moment and sharing that because I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure there are other women, men even that are listening that may have similar experiences as that. How about you, Alicia?
Um, as you guys are talking, I'm thinking back of all kind of how we all met and what that looked like. And I think we all, met and celebrate recovery and how that kind of I've known God my whole life, or I thought I did. And it wasn't until people came into my life and said, "Hey, I'll walk with you. And you're hurting or whatever, I'll walk with you." And it's just that point where you're like, wait, I matter to you? Like, you're going to give up some of your time? Like Kathy and Randy gave up so much of their time to walk with me and Chris, and it was like, wait, you care about me? So that start of it. And then it's like, okay, well, as you continue to walk with them, you get to be vulnerable. You get to they listen to you, and you're like, okay, wait, I really matter to these people. It's not just a whatever, like, hey, I see you on Sunday morning and then that's it, but I really don't have time to talk to you. It was like, you invested into my life. You cared about my life. And I remember the first time, we met Lauren, and we're like, "Oh no, Lauren, you're fine. Take your kid to Chris. He's going to watch them." And you come to church and you do the step study. Like, this is weird. You're going to just watch my child? Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
And just the opportunities we've had, like hiking and church, and just constantly being there for each other, gives that opportunity. It breeds vulnerability because people care about you.
Yeah, I love that. That is so good. And the other one I think that goes hand in hand with vulnerability, at least I know for our group and for, a lot of the safe places that we journey in, is accountability.
Mm.
And accountability is so important because, especially if you're in any type of a leadership role, or even if you're not, if you are saying, I'm going to journey with you, or I'm going to do this with you, we have to know that God has placed us or them before us for a purpose. And I am accountable first to God because of the purpose that I feel that I'm living out today. But I'm also accountable to each and every one of you. I mean, it's not like we send something through our text chain and everybody responds. No, and that's okay too. But I am accountable to make sure that I'm reading them. I want to acknowledge them. If I have something that I want to share, I'm going to share that. If I need prayer, I'm going to pray. I'm going to ask for prayer because I know that I'm accountable to you just as much as you are accountable to me. So, I'll start with Alicia. You just ended. How about accountability to you? How does that apply to your circle?
For me, accountability is so important. Like, I think it is one of the major things that help us grow as people. Um, Having people you can be accountable to, and that they're going to call you out on your stuff. They're not always going to agree with you. This group doesn't always agree with me. Each of you give a different opinion, which to me is beautiful, because and each time it'll change. Lauren might give it that week where it kind of touches me, and then it's Tracy, then it's Kathy, and it's just that holding accountable, helping me to see my part in things, is such a game changer. It is a true game changer, and you have to be ready to see yourself. And when you're in a safe group like this, you can look at yourself and know, hey, I'm not perfect, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I love that. I'm not perfect. I used to think I was, and I was working really hard at doing that, but that's exhausting. So it's good to be able to be real, raw, vulnerable, but yet have accountability at the same time. So that's great. Tracy, how about you? What's your accountability look like for you?
Well, it feels like I finally have it. Because also growing up, all of my so-called friends, and they're so-called because they just yesed me. Whatever I would say to them, whatever my thoughts were, oh yeah. I mean, it's great to have people encourage you, but you want that reality of, dude, you're off in left field, come back to earth. That's a fantasy. That's not reality. And nobody, not even my family, was able to do that for me. And it's hard going through life when you're thinking that you're well adjusted and you're this amazing person, and then you come out to a new place. Like, even when we moved out to California, how many people told me I was rude? And I'm like, I'm not rude. I'm from New York. New Yorkers are rude. I'm not rude. I'm the nice one. And everyone's like, you're rude. And I had to stop and take a look at myself and go, dang it, I am rude. And I could be, bitchy, and I can be hormonal, and I can be loving, and I can be codependent. But if it's too much, And I know because Alicia's been through most of this with me. But if I'm coming on too strong, if I'm coming on too much, I want to know. I can't change me and grow me and improve me if you're not going to tell me that I'm pissing you off
Yeah.
by something I'm doing that I'm not aware of. And it goes back to that trust, and it goes back to being able to be vulnerable, because if you don't have that trust network with your friends, you're not even going to receive it from them. You're going to be like, well, you're whacked because you're the only one telling me that I'm like that and nobody else agrees with you. When 17 other people are like, heck yeah, you don't know it because they can't be honest with you. So that's what I like about accountability, because I can't grow, I can't change, I can't admit my faults if nobody's willing to point them out to me, because no, we're not going to see them ourselves.
What we don't know, we can't change, so we need
Right.
accountability.
Mhm.
That's good.
Mhm.
How about you, Lauren?
Or what you try to hide too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that accountability goes hand in hand with vulnerability, but also when you're looking for someone to hold you accountable, you want to look for somebody who you in your eyes is a little bit higher than you, who's going to have some godly wisdom, and someone that you in your mind, you want to get to that level. I think also like secular world, it kind of sounds a little bit awkward when you're like, accountability, what, who's going to hold me accountable? Like only God could hold me accountable, but God actually gives us helpers to help each other. And I just wanted to share like a little story about you when before I knew about accountability. So when me and Albert
Right.
met, is that okay?
Yeah, you can, but you're probably gonna make me cry here.
So sorry. So when me and Albert met, he was like, hey, we got to be under somebody. And I was like, what? Under somebody? I've never been in a relationship where I have to be under somebody. That's kind of strange. Like, you want me to tell somebody that I'm mad at you? In my head, I was like, we're just supposed to tell each other and figure this out. And he's like, no, Lauren, that's not how you do it. He's like, we're gonna be under somebody. And I remember thinking, and he asked me who I wanted to be under. And I always saw you like as a spiritual mom, and you and Randy, helping a lot of other relationships. And in my head, I said, Albert, like, I want to be under Pastor Kathy and Randy, because I've seen that they help so many relationships. And if they could help so many others, I think obviously like there's something good in them, right? I didn't know what it was yet, but now I could see like all the fruitfulness and all of it. So yeah, like you've held us accountable, and you've been there through us, and you've supported us. And I just also want to thank you like for being there for us through the whole thing with Josiah, like you flying down here and just holding me accountable for my feelings also when I didn't know how to express myself, and just being my spiritual mom that I've always searched for in somebody. So I truly love you, and I love all of you girls for always holding me accountable and just being so raw with my feelings,
Thank
not
you.
judging me. Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Woo! This is what accountability looks like. It's raw, it's vulnerable, it's open, it's honest, it's awesome. You mentioned, Lauren, godly wisdom, and that was another thing that came up that kept coming up through these is, having godly women in our lives that have wisdom. Alicia, you, to me, I mean, sometimes I hear things from you and I'm like, where does she get this from? But share what, having godly wisdom or just having that wisdom, how important is that to you in a circle, community circle like this, that people need to know what to look for maybe in somebody that's got godly wisdom?
I would say some things, I don't know what I say, it's Holy Spirit led. As you get closer to God, there was this thing that said the other day, like a pastor, and it said, you people get married and they think that's the beginning of my life, or, I graduated college and that's the beginning of my life. And he said, the real beginning of your life is when you give your life fully to Christ. And it's so true, because I see a clear difference between, when we started Celebrate Recovery and really gave our lives to Christ and started living that way. It's hard to remember that life before. And I feel like almost like Kathy and Randy raised us. And as you you do that wisdom, and as you stay in the word with God and you stay close to God, it's an everyday walk. It's a pruning. I'm constantly being pruned, and I'm like, sometimes I just don't want to be pruned anymore. Like, could you please stop pruning me? But that's where wisdom comes from, is a constant pruning. So if you're looking for a circle, look for women who are constantly walking the walk and talking the talk. And let the Holy Spirit guide you and lead you, and ask for discernment and see into their lives. Like, they may say one thing, but are they truly living with Christ? Are they in their word? Where is their heart? Who's their heart turned to? Is it self or is it Christ? And with that, godly wisdom will come. That wisdom will come as we are pruned all the time, every day. That wisdom grows and it grows and it grows. And that's where it comes from.
That's great. I love that. And this next one came across several times. Alicia, I think you kind of spearheaded this one, but I think we can all relate to how important having a healthy community is when we're working on ourselves. And are the people in our community working on themselves? So, Lauren, what is working on yourself, and how important is it for you in your community to have others working on themselves?
Well, for me, working on myself is a constant thing. So I'm always checking my heart, checking my posture. And I'm also doing deep work. I usually work with you. We go back to questions of our childhood to find deep roots. So it's always a pruning season, because you're always finding more about yourself. And for me to have a healthy community is important, because I don't want to fall back on my character defects. And I want to just be able to stay healthy and have a healthy mindset, protect what God's given me.
Yeah, that's really good. Tracy, how about you? What about working on yourself versus others working on themselves in your community?
Well, I mean, in growing this came up like in my one-year Bible reading about how Joseph was waiting for his fulfilled promises, that it was because God was growing his character. And Laura and I were talking about this because he's given me these promises, and as a group, you guys know, but our audience doesn't. So when I was 12 years old, God was promising me a husband and children, and here I am, 51, menopausal. Pregnancy is basically off the record. There's like no way that's going to happen. Okay, not 100%, since we all know Sarah got pregnant at 90. But in reality, odds of me getting pregnant and conceiving a child are basically slim to nil. And I'm still waiting for these promises to fulfill. And I'm like, what is taking so long? And it gets frustrating. And when you see that God needs us to grow, and God needs us to change, and God needs us to get to certain points, because our character needs to be at a certain level, because once the blessings start, we have to be ready. We have to be ready for the warfare. We have to be ready for the attack. We have to be ready for everything that's going to get thrown at us when we hit that next level. And if we're not ready now, we're never going to be able to promote. So if I'm not working on me, and my friends that I'm talking to are not working on them, they can't lift me up. They can't raise me. They can't point out my flaws. I can't point out their flaws. It's that mutual give take in a healthy relationship. Laura and I were also talking about that. We're in a season where I'm lifting her up. And before she moved to Texas, she was lifting me up. I was going through issues with a guy. I was going through stuff with my testimonies. I was going through all of these things. She was there to lift me up. Now we're in the season where I'm lifting her up. We're in a relationship. It's not sexual. It's not romantic. It's a friendship. It's a beautiful friendship. But one is stronger when the other is weaker. So we can lift each other up, and the roles will reverse if we're in a healthy relationship, if we're in a healthy friendship. And that's things that we need to seek out to grow us. If somebody's not willing to work on themselves, then I'm going to outgrow them. And what's that going to do for me? Pull me back. And unfortunately, where I'm currently living, people want to pull me down. They want to hold me down. And what Alicia said before, I worked so hard to be genuine. And that was the word that came to mind when she was talking. It's genuine, it's real. I have been held and held down by jobs, by bosses, by coworkers. Nobody likes the real me. I joked when I was out in Texas that my personality is too big for California because they want to stifle me. And I want to be real to me. And this, since the start of 23, I've been genuine.
Yeah.
And I love who I am now. And it's taken me until I was 50 years old to love myself. And I'm glad it happened. But at the same time, I'm like, it shouldn't have taken that long.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because of me, just me. It was also around the people that I was surrounding myself with.
Yeah.
And I surrounded myself with the wrong people who wanted to hold me back, who couldn't be there for me to grow because I would outgrow them and they didn't like that. They needed to feel superior for their needs and their unhealthy
Right.
place in life.
No, that's really good. Alicia, this is one that you brought up in your why is, working on themselves. And we know the value of working on ourselves, but share what you meant by, am I in a circle or am I in a community that other people are working on? We can all be like-minded, but if we're not all working on ourselves, how does that affect you?
I think that I feel personally, how can I trust somebody if they are unwilling to look at themselves and to see their faults? How can I trust that you're going to be able to call out my faults? How can I trust that you're going to be able to see what I'm going through and to really call that out in a spiritual way if you are stagnant in yourself?
Yeah.
You can't grow when you're stagnant. If you're in the same spot, you're going to be in the same spot tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And like Tracy said, I'm going to keep growing, but that relationship is going to end at some point because I'm going to be continually pruned and grown. And you're going to still be dealing with stuff that has been an issue for you for years and years and years and years because you're unwilling to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult. You can't have a give and take relationship if one is unwilling to see their part in their own healing.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. And for myself, I'm just going to have a little vulnerable moment here. When we moved here to Arizona, you girls know kind of what happened with me and church and such. And, I didn't realize how stagnant I had become. And I thought, being on this journey, I've been doing my own recovery journey for 16 years. And you think that, oh, there comes a point where how long do I have to keep doing this? I think Albert said this in one of our podcasts. There's no cap and gown in recovery. And when I say recovery, it's not recovering of an addiction or anything like that. It's recovering of self. It's recovering of who God has created us to be because we've been in a sinful world. And now we're still in the sinful world, but we're stepping into a Christian walk. And so my journey, I didn't realize how stagnant I was until I picked up and started working with some of you women, I've got several women that I'm working with. And I have just today had to have another conversation with my husband on something that I need. I didn't realize all these years, we've been married, you guys know, over 40 years, a behavior of fear that I have that I had to kind of lay out what I needed from him. And it wasn't until walking through some step work with another friend this morning that I went, oh my gosh, that's what I need. So I have to continuously work on myself, first and foremost. But it certainly makes a community much easier to be in when we're all working on ourselves. And we might all be at different spaces and places in our work, and that's okay too. But what are we learning about ourselves every day? And that's been my go-to question is, what did you learn in this situation? And so for me, I've learned that I can't be stagnant, that there's still more growth within me, and I still have things that are being uncovered. And so it's so important to work on myself. And how, like Alicia said, how can I guide you guys, direct you guys, be accountable to you guys if I'm not doing the work myself? So it's so, so important. And then the last thing that was a commonality in all of us, I think, is prayer. And, we know how important prayer is. We know the value of prayer. not only for ourselves, but for others. Lauren, you're stepping into a beautiful role with prayer. Alicia, you guys are going through the same thing through your church. I want each of you to tell me and our listeners, what is it about prayer in a circle that is so important to you? Lauren, how about you? We'll start with you.
I want to let Alicia go first.
Okay, Alicia, you
I'm
can go.
still thinking.
I love prayer. Like I absolutely love it. I joined a prayer group probably a year and a half ago now. And I joined for selfish reasons because I wanted to be better at praying. I was so tired of like God prompting me to go pray for somebody. And I'd be like, I can't do that. That's scary. I'm not going to do that. I knew that it was time for me to get deeper into my prayer life. And so praying with others, we meet on every other Sunday, and it was like a CR meeting. We would sit there and we would talk to each other, and we'd say, hey, what's going on in your life? What do you need prayer for? What's the church need prayer for? And you just grew in these relationships. And I mean, all these people in my prayer group are 60, 70 plus, because prayer is just such a scary thing for people because we don't practice it on a regular basis.
Good.
And it was just such a beautiful time. And just to have, then it's spilt over into my personal life, like praying by myself in my closet. And then my husband has joined me. So we've been praying together as a couple every single day. We have Post-it notes on the wall. One thing I learned yesterday was like, I have discernment, and God told me I was making me bitter because it was telling me about people's walk, because I was spiritually dead at a point. And so God allows me to see others that are spiritually dead. And it was making me bitter and angry. And I realized, no, that's not the gift that I have. The gift is to constantly pray for them, that, do not give them to the devil, that they belong to Christ. And it is your job to pray for them every single day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Tracy, how about you? How is prayer important to you in a community?
Well, we all need prayer. It strengthens our belief. It strengthens our belief in God, in Jesus, in finding the positives in the world when you're faced with one hardship after another. We're in difficult times. We've been in difficult times. We're in last days. There's a lot of adversity from people. There's a lot of pushback from people. People claim to be Christian. They act and they don't talk that way. And it helps. I mean, I've seen when we pray for things and then the blessing of the Lord happens. And whether it comes the exact way I want it or some other way, it just reinforces why we need to have that prayer life. I found mine is, even though I'm not actively praying at church the same way that I used to, because we can't just come up and lay hands on people like at Destiny did, but it's needed. I love it. I love that connection. I love feeling the Holy Spirit flow through me when I make that connection to him. And when I can lay hands on somebody and just be that vessel and let him speak through me to them, and then watch their reaction and see that it's impacting them. And then I'm like, great. I have no idea what I said because they're not my words, but I was used. I was used by the best thing ever to help somebody else. And I've always been encouraged to help people.
Yeah.
I love helping people. I'm a helper. I am a servant. And it's, to me, the best thing that we can do is to open ourselves as a vessel for God to use us to pray for somebody else when somebody is struggling. And then, like I said, you see that confirmation, you see a healing, you see a breakthrough, you see peace, you see comfort, you see our result, especially in corporate prayer.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. All right, Lauren, what
Okay.
you got on prayer, girl?
So when I think about prayer, I think of this verse from James 5:16, the NLT version, for community. Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The earnest prayer of the righteous person has a great power and produces wonderful results. So for me, prayer and a community is important. The more that you pray, the more boldness and faith and authority that you realize that you have in Jesus. And just seeing all the miracles that you only know that's God, right? Like when God moves. And I think it's also beautiful when you pray over somebody and you guys go through like a similar situation, you have the compassion and you just understand. But prayer is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
I think for me, what I love about prayer is just it's impactful. It's taught me compassion and empathy for sure. And in our circle here, you know, when I feel and I know this happens is that, you know, like today, this morning, I had to send out a request for prayer for my sister-in-law. And I know that it didn't just end with the three of you. Our impact that we have in prayer goes well beyond us because we each have a community outside of this that we can attach those prayers to. And so it's just a domino effect of prayer. And like Lauren, the experience with Josiah and his incident and stuff, it was the same way. It didn't just stop with here. That prayer, I hit each and every person I could think of with that. So the trickle effect of our prayers within a small community, it's like that drop of water in a pond. It just goes out. And so I think we have to remember that prayer extends as far as we're willing to push it. And so it's really important to me that we continue to push prayer well beyond just our community. So
We shouldn't
as
take it lightly
yeah, no, not at all.
because there's God moves in prayer way
Yes.
more. And just being able to pray for someone is an honor and a privilege
Mhm.
to watch God move behind for their behalf.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, what she said.
So as we close out, I have a couple scriptures I want to read, but I want to, if you guys can just, one thing that you would encourage the listeners about getting into a community, getting into a safe circle, what would be that one thing that you would like to pass on and encourage the listeners to? Tracy, do you have something?
Yeah, it's so needed for our mental health.
Good.
It's again, it's that being raw. It's taking a weight off of your shoulders. It's taking a weight off of every part of your being. I mean, my thing was swallowing not just food, swallowing my emotions. It's toxic. It destroys us. It kills us. We already have a cell death. Why do we want to speed up the process?
Yeah.
But don't just seek it out yourself. Let God lead you to the right women. If you pray that this is what you really want, He will bring those women into your life at His time,
Yeah.
when He knows it's the right group and He knows that you're developed well enough to handle it. He'll bring them to you.
Yeah.
We're evidence of that.
Yeah. How about you, Alicia?
I would just say, don't be afraid. There is a group like this doesn't happen on accident, and it takes a lot of work. And don't be afraid to find a group of women that is not afraid to work on themselves and that is vulnerable, and it's different. It hits different, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable yourself. It's easy to allow other people to be vulnerable. It's easy a lot to have them be accountable, but it's you have to be the accountable one. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and be real. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. So if you are looking for your group, make sure that you are showing up and being vulnerable and willing to take that mask off and be real.
Good. Yeah, love that. Yeah, those were my words I was thinking of too. That's so good. How about you, Lauren?
It's important to find your community because you want to be able to share the raw things that you're thinking in your mind, and you probably think, oh, I'm the only one thinking this, or this person's not going to like me because I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
And just to be able to share with your safe place, your circle, is just so freeing. And once you let that go, the enemy doesn't have like the authority over you to carry that shame and guilt. It's just like a release from God. So it's really important. And just like Alicia said, to be willing and open, and learn to trust and not carry the things that maybe you're scared or I don't know, just like the fear of judgment. When you find the right circle, you know.
Yeah.
You just know your people. And that, sorry, I wanted to say too, it's beautiful that like we all continue to grow. And even though like we're far different states and stuff, that our relationship, it still keeps growing. And even though we're losing people in the path, like God says, like the road is wide, but there's so many, or there's not so many that are very obedient. So it becomes narrow.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful thing when you have your circle.
Yep, absolutely. I was going to say something that, in looking for that circle, one is, be like Alicia said, be willing to take a risk. And sometimes we have to take some small risks to get what we really need. Maybe not what we want. There's a difference between needs and wants, but God knows what we need. But also the thing that I learned this early in recovery, and this applied in church, it applied in my church environment. This circle is look for other men or women, depending on the group you're looking for, that have what you want. Look for somebody that is further ahead of you on their journey, somebody that's going to guide you. And there might be times where you might go ahead of that person, and that's perfectly okay. But to start out, look at their walk. Do you have things in common? Are they married? Do they have children? What does their marriage look like? What are their kids? How are they raising their kids? There's so many things to look for. And it's not to be picky. It's to make sure that you find the right fit for you so that you can take that godly walk and you can grow and mature in Christ. And I think that's what I have found in this group. Even though I'm the old lady in the group, you guys still teach me each and every day. So be teachable. That's the other thing. Be open to be teachable. And that's what's really important, is we don't always have all the answers, and that's okay too, but we're all teachable. So that's a beautiful thing. So I want to just close with a couple of scriptures that I found about community. So community is encouraging. And in Hebrews 10:24-25, it says, let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And I do believe that fits our circle right here, is that we don't give up meeting. We're always in communication. And we don't want to get out of, I don't want to get out of that habit. I don't know about you guys. I'll speak for myself, but I certainly don't want to get out of that habit. And then the other one is community's fun. And I love this in Proverbs 27:9, it says, perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from the heartfelt advice. And, we get that beautiful joy of our heart being in this community, this circle of women. And the heartfelt advice is like a beautiful scent of perfume. And then the last one I have is that community fosters love. And the healthier we are, the better friends, spouses we can be. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And that's John 15:12-13. And I know, and I believe in all my heart, that if we needed each other in any spur of the moment, that we would be the first to call each other, and we would be the first to reach out. So I personally love all of you guys. Didn't think I was get this emotional. But I just want to thank you guys for joining and being part of this journey with me. And thank you for being in my life. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Can I say one more thing real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so being in a new place, the one thing I look for in new relationships is just honesty, like open that vulnerability and just the honesty of who they are. And I don't care how ugly it is. They could be in church, not in church. If you are open and honest about who you are and not putting on masks, that is a huge thing for me. I know that I can learn to trust you.
Yeah.
So it kind of just they honest in who they are as a person.
Yeah, that's so good. So important. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate your vulnerability and being willing to go on here, and who knows how many people will listen. It is my prayer that whoever is listening, that they take away 1, 2, 3, 10. I don't care how many nuggets they take away, that there's something in this podcast that will reach them and they'll feel it in their heart. So thank you again, ladies, for joining me. And as Randy closes this out, it's weird that I'm closing this out, but he says, if nobody loves you today, Kathy does, but more importantly, God does. Be blessed, everyone. Have a great week.